I want to give a general overview of the different types of programs, graduate programs that you can go to in order to get licensed as a clinician. You don't have to go to a doctoral program in order to do that. So overall, I'd like to ask you both, what are the major differences between a PhD, a PsyD, an MSW, and master's programs? So masters in counseling programs, and maybe also if you want to talk about MFT programs, but that's yeah, so just general overview.
Go ahead, Daisy, you start. If I have anything to add, I will.
I was going to recommend that you start.
Fine, I'll start. All right. Let's talk about the one that's the most difficult to get into, and too many people think it's the only pathway to take. It's the PhD program in clinical psychology. It's the most difficult to get into because there are more applicants. The proportion of applicants to slots is dramatic. For example, at Teachers College this year, we had nearly 600 applicants, and we took in, I think, 7 new students. So we can start with that. There's probably 150 or so PhD programs across the country. I suppose we can get into this a little bit later, but in general, the ones that are most difficult to get into are the ones that are in the most geographically usually preferred cities. New York, Boston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, etc. Though there are many other very prestigious, terrific PhD programs, those aren't the only ones. Then we have PsyD programs, which have proliferated and become more than acceptable. Some of them are quite excellent, that don't suppose that you have any particular interest in learning to do research or becoming involved in some research lab. That takes away the likelihood that you're going to have to exaggerate in your PhD applications the extent to which you actually want to do research. So if you truly want to become a therapist and you're only marginally interested at best in learning to do research, PsyD programs are a terrific alternative. Differences, of course, is that they focus almost exclusively on clinical work. Sometimes they're a year so less in length. That is, you can usually finish a PsyD in 4 years, sometimes 5, as opposed to 5 or 6 or more in clinical PhD programs. They tend not to provide any or sometimes only minimal financial aid. So that's a dramatic difference too. Although again, because they're fewer years in length, it may cost you somewhat less. Actually, it's going to cost you somewhat more, but per year that you're going to be a student 1 year less means that you can be employed a year earlier. MSW programs, another terrific opportunity for those who are serious about wanting to become psychotherapists, but are not terribly interested, or for whatever reason, of being involved in a program for 5 or 6 years. You can get a perfectly acceptable and excellent education in an MSW program in 2 years, and either become employed as a therapist in either private practice, or more likely in some sort of clinic situation, or become involved in policy. Traditionally, historically, MSWs have learned a lot about social policy. Mm-hmm. MFTs, among others, marriage and family therapy. They're master's degree programs. And again, if you're particularly interested in doing couples work, families work, you can get a degree in about 2 years as well. And obviously you're specializing in doing that kind of work, but all of these are license eligible, and all of these are usually third-party reimbursable.